Welcome to the Biscuits and Blurays podcast, where we. What is my intro? I forgot my intro.
You know it better than I do.
Oh, dude, I'm going to start again. Welcome to the Biscuits and Blurays podcast, where we watch Blu-rays and take the biscuit. I'm your host, James, and we got interrupted on our Evil Dead marathon with The Little Mermaid, but we're back on it. So today, it's Army of Darkness. I'm joined by George from TipsyFlix. Hello, George.
Hello, good to be here.
We've known each other for a little while through the Instagrams.
The Instagrams.
Your Instagram page is quite unique in the fact that you pair... Well, what is it you do on the Instagram?
So I pair movies with beers or vice versa. Basically, I think you yourself as well during lockdown just found yourself with all this spare time on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching a lot of movies and I was drinking a lot of fancy beers, and I just it kind of made it more fun to kind of try and like do pairings with them. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And I've just not stopped doing it since all that nearly like 3-4 years now.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. I've noticed you've paired Army of Darkness with something already.
So I've done Army of Darkness a couple of times because the Evil Dead franchise is one of my favourite franchises of all times.
Uh-huh.
There's a brewery called Rivington Brewery. The last 2 years have done an Evil Dead series of beers, which is just too low-hanging fruit to not take. So I've grabbed them both times. I'm hoping they do it a third time this year. But I do have a pairing today as well, actually, but not from Rivington.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can get onto that later, won't it?
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. So the Evil Dead franchise for you, I think a lot of people would agree that the franchise has a lot of ups and downs, but it's all good. Like there's not one bad apple.
I think because obviously there's a new film out, and that sparked a lot of conversation, obviously between ourselves, with other people I know. And we have this weird obsession with ranking things. We've all got to put it in order. But the Evil Dead franchise, it's just all so tight at the top. And I was saying to somebody else who ranked them completely different to me that I'm not even mad. Because I know that it's not because anything's getting left behind. I know it's not because you prefer one that I don't like. It's that they're all just they're so good, but for different reasons. So
there are no wrong answers in a.
There's no wrong answers. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we all agree that they're all pretty good. I was talking to Sarah yesterday about the Evil Dead remake, and we were like, that's still good. It might not hold up today.
It's completely tonally different to all of them, and not in a bad way. And we're going to get into the Army of Darkness, but the Army of Darkness, again, so tonally different from everything else that kind of has come before it and then has since come after it. But again, there are no wrong answers. I think to love this franchise is to love all of them for different reasons. I do
want to talk about the tone because the first one, the Evil Dead, is mostly a horror. There's a few laughs in there, but not much. The second one sort of dips its toe slightly. It's getting a bit more zany. And this one is batshit crazy, right?
This one just goes all out. And I was watching it today and I was reminded, and I've never made this comparison before, of Back to the Future Part 3, where it's just so completely different. They're in a different time. Back to the Future 3 famously just made because Robert Zemeckis always wanted to make a Western and was like, well, I'm going to make a Western then. And this kind of almost strikes me as Sam Raimi kind of went, I've always wanted to make a sword and sandals medieval knights in shining armor movie, and was like, well, I'll use the budget that they're going to give me for the next Evil Dead to make it.
Yeah. If we know anything about the Evil Dead, we know that Ash has found himself transported back in time at the end of
He's gone back in time.
One. The film could have stopped there. The whole franchise could have been dead in the water from there. It could have been just really open-ended. So credit to Sam Raimi and everyone involved to get this made. I
think the craziest thing before any of this is if you watch them all back to back, which I did do recently, the first thing you see is the big Universal logo. And it's this is a big studio movie. And I think because of the success of Evil Dead 2, there was interest to kind of try and make this a Hollywood franchise. There's a lot of money in this movie. We do get the recap. Again, this time they were allowed the rights to the previous movie to show clips from it. I didn't have to completely remake the previous 2 movies. They do a little bit.
But the budget is a lot higher, but still it's not as high as it could have been. 13 million we're looking at for a budget for this one. And it shows, like, and
it does. The money's on the screen.
Absolutely. And it's well deserved as well, because obviously the first one's such a cult classic. The second one's even cultier a classic, if that's the thing. And then this one is, Sam Raimi's really deserved this. And it's his showcase, I'd say.
Oh, 100%.
But Bruce Campbell's back in action because he's such a great leading man. I do want to talk about Bruce Campbell slightly and ask you, why do you think his career didn't go completely mainstream?
I was asking myself the same question today while rewatching it, and I think this being such like a prominent Hollywood movie, this must have been exciting for all of the core Evil Dead crew and cast involved, especially Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi. Bruce Campbell went on to do some very fun movies, but his career just never really took off after this. He kind of always was just in the background of Sam Raimi's career as Sam Raimi went on to do bigger and brighter things. Bruce Campbell's always kind of been there alongside him, having cameos in all these movies, but has never really gone on to do. He had a TV series about the same time, kind of went into TV a little bit, but none of the shows really kind of went past 1 or 2 seasons.
His career is not without success. I mean, he's done Notice. He's always got this to fall back on.
He is Bruce, he is Ash Williams. So
absolutely,
no one can take that away from him.
I do want to talk about the poster. The poster's fantastic.
I love the poster so much.
Of all the Evil Dead posters, this is probably my favorite, I'd say.
100%.
Do you think Bruce Campbell has this framed on his bedroom wall?
I'm sure he has a copy of it signed to himself from himself above his bed.
There are other people in the fray, though. Embeth Davids is here. I grew up in the 90s.
Yep.
She's Miss Honey. What's Miss Honey doing in this Dead movie? Ian Abercrombie's here as well, who's done little bits and pieces and stuff. I think you'd recognise him.
I think there's a few recognisable faces in it, but it is. I mean, Bruce Campbell is Campbell. It is the Campbell show. I mean, he plays a double role in this as well.
Of course. I completely forgot about that. So we do find out that Ash has been taken prisoner by the people, the medieval folk.
Yeah.
Because he's fallen from the sky and they think he's part of... There's a lot of like political stuff happening under the surface.
There's a war going on between 2 rival castles, I guess.
Yeah, I want to say, castles is probably a bit the way to describe it.
It's another thing that's never really touched on, and it doesn't even really matter. Is like it doesn't really say where this is. There's bits which hint that it's maybe like England and Scotland. It's kind of the idea. It doesn't really matter. It just kind of go, right, there's 2 castles. So there's 2.
If you are thinking about that stuff, this film's probably not for you.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I've just been watching it with a different head on today, thinking I am coming on to talk about this. I was like, where is this set? Where, like,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It really does not matter.
It's probably obviously the same universe, but who knows? It's the franchise just goes completely left field and raises a lot of questions that honestly you don't need answers to. We found out that he's due to be executed by this faction that he's found himself in. We find out that he's going to get chucked into a pit, which is very medieval. We love it.
Someone throws a rock at him. All the crowd, someone throws a rock at it. It hits him on the head, and he's dazed around, and he then falls in. He was getting thrown in anyway, so he ends up in the pit. They've taken his chainsaw hand off him.
Yeah.
And he's left to fight a couple of Deadites down there.
Well, we didn't know that there were Deadites down there. We
didn't know,
a gush of
blood.
Yeah.
I mean, this is interesting because I've listened to your previous 2 episodes coming up to this, and you were saying about how in Evil Dead 2, with the blood that was coming out of a wall, they made some of it green and they made some of it black so that it wasn't all blood to kind of get past the censors. Whereas in this big studio movie, not quite 10 years later, but heading that way, they just blood everywhere. It doesn't need to be a different color. The way that the times have changed and sensibilities have changed between Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. There's a whole fountain of blood raining down on this whole village.
I do think it's because, in terms of tone, it's gone much more slapstick and comedic.
Oh,
Right.
100%.
So you could do that where it's gone a little bit Monty Python, a little bit Three Stooges,
Yeah.
and so I feel like they're not judging this as a horror film. They're judging it as
Sure.
a comedy. I feel
I
like
mean, it's an action adventure. It's almost a family movie in
almost.
some ways. Like if you had like kids, it's probably the one you could probably show your kids first,
Yeah,
and that be their introduction to it,
they
as
wouldn't
opposed
they
to
wouldn't understand it, but
they wouldn't understand it. But I think you could probably show like a 12-year-old this, maybe younger. You
yeah.
could probably show a 10-year-old this, and like it's probably not the best thing to show them, but I don't think it would do any permanent damage to them.
Of all of them, I think it's
Of all of them, this is probably the most kid friendly.
absolutely. So he fights this deadite in the pit, and I think does someone throw down his boomstick?
It's his chainsaw, and it's the most amazing. Someone goes like "Future Man" and throws it down, and the chainsaw spins, and he just dives up for it, and it just makes contact with his like stump.
Yeah, and he's equipped and he's ready.
And he's equipped, he's ready. He lands in a superhero pose pretty much. And then I can't remember exactly the line. It's something like "Come get some" or one of the classic lines.
Well, he comes back up to the surface because he's like found his way out of the pit.
Fought his way out of spikes as well. There's spikes down there.
He walks up to Lord Arthur and he just very casually just goes, "Your shoes untied."
And Your shoes untied. And the line makes me laugh every time because he's not wearing it. He's got armor on, so he hasn't got shoelaces.
But
he looks anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. It takes a beat and he still looks down at his feet and then just gets one. Then we get in the most probably most iconic.
Yeah.
Right? The speech about the boomstick.
This is, listen up, you primitive screwheads. This is my boomstick. And then he does a whole sales pitch.
An S-gauge double-barreled Remington, S-Mark's top of the line. Yeah. I think
S-Mark's top of the line retails for about $109.95.
You can find it in the sporting goods department. It's like, who's this for? Is that just Bruce going off, do you think?
No, I think it's a good question. Is it Bruce going off? It's definitely not ad-libbed. It's definitely written in there. But I think there's this whole setup, because this is the first movie where we see S-Mart and a preview of Ash's life before he goes to the cabin. And it kind of just sets him up as this, kind of, that's all he's ever done is his work to this shop. He obviously can relay facts about a product that he's got.
It's a good S-Mart employee, of course.
Yeah, he's a great employee. And to all them primitive screwheads, that must sound like wizardry, and because they're not going to know what a double Remington shotgun is. And $109.95 just sounds like strange numbers.
That must be a lot of money for So he's hailed as, I don't want to say a god, but he's hailed as some sort of
chosen one, or prophet, or
let's go king. I want to say king.
King. Well, hail to the king.
Hail to the king. Yeah, and then it's up to him basically to rid the world of this evil that's being.
He just wants to get home. His whole motivation is that he wants to get home to his own time. And it just so happens that the only way he can do that is to go and get the Necronomicon, which they need to defeat the evil. So it's mutual interests on everyone's.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah. So I'm going to go get this book for you.
Off he goes on a quest. This is where it turns a little bit too much comedic for me. He stays overnight in.
I love.
Do you like
scene
this scene
so much? When he's being fed grapes and they're talking about how he's going to get home, and there's an old woman in the corner just making a stew, and all of a sudden she just turns into a deadite, and it goes full Sam Raimi, full on battle of evil. But he faces away from her and shoots the shotgun over his shoulder, and then brings it down and does this. And then the old wise man steps in and goes, "If this is the evil we're facing," or something, or just drops a little bit of exposition. But it's so entertaining. It's so just on the beat. The beats are so perfect. When it slows down, when they think she's dead, Ash is like, "It's a trap," and you can see her smirking little face.
Yeah,
it's just so much fun, and I like. I've seen this film in the cinema, and that whole scene got a great laugh.
I just want to quickly bring up the effects and the makeup.
Okay.
It's always been good, but as the budget's improved, so have the.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. I think this design, the design for Evil Dead 2, the Deadites with the like big mouth and stuff like that.
Mm.
I really like the otherworldly stuff. How do you rank that in terms of your evil? Do you like your Evil Dead to be sort of paranormal, or do you like someone to be possessed and just look like them?
I mean, I love this whole like that Deadite in particular looks a lot like the witch from Drag Me to Hell.
Right.
And it looks real worldly, but she's still haggard and the eyes are milk like gone glazed over and so those effects I think are really great. The long fingernails are always like a creepy little aesthetic. But then going back to the pit, we've got this whole kind of like ghoulish goblin blob monster thing, which is completely otherworldly. And then later on, we have the Army of Darkness, which are just skeleton people.
Skeletons, yeah.
Ash versus Evil Dead delves into this more. Is like you've got this whole book which can conjure so many different spells and do so many different things. The Deadites that we get in the cabin in the first two is just a small portion of that, really, in the grand scheme of things. So they kind of set it up that they can just go, "We'll do what we want. If we want skeletons, we'll have a skeleton army."
They can look exactly how
the book, and you can just write it off as that's just a different spell and a different thing in the book.
Absolutely. Obviously, there are more than one book.
Yeah.
The franchise leans into that later on, much later.
It does.
So Asher goes on a noble quest to get this book. Bruce Campbell's always been a master at physical acting, not just physical comedy, but just his physicality is just amazing. But here we really do get a showcase of how good he can be with the scene where he's fighting multiple
little versions of himself.
Yeah. Do you like that scene?
I love that scene. It's Tom and Jerry. It
is Tom and Jerry.
If you look at it as a cartoon, you'll have a great time. If you go in expecting the first Evil Dead movie and want high horror, I think you're going to be disappointed.
But, absolutely. But you'll still find something to enjoy.
There's a lot of fun involved, and he's singing London Bridges falling down and trying to stomp on one of them. One of them attacks him with a fork and he throws it back and it like stabs one of the little ones to the wall. But again, like Bruce Campbell is playing multiple roles in one scene. He's playing Ash as himself, and then he's playing numerous little versions of himself. And there must be so many stuntmen as well, kind of filling out background, but you can't really notice it. The only reason I feel like I have noticed it is because I've purposely looked for it to go, how have they done this? Because it looks so good. The effects being used, if you look for it, you can see the seams, but it still really holds up today.
I think that's part of its charm. That is, it doesn't look perfect, even probably at the time. It doesn't look super great, but we're in it we like seeing them have a good time with it.
Yeah, everyone's having a great time. There's so many different effects, and I said this about the first one as well. You've got so many different techniques being used at the same time that are all propping each other up. So in that, you've got back projections being used to make it look like they are small. You've got little bits of claymation being used. You've got prosthetics and models being used, like all just in the space of so you could pause it and go, oh, there's a prosthetic or there's a model. It's coming at you so like thick and fast that you can't really determine everything if you watch it.
One of the little Ashes jumps inside Ash's mouth.
Yeah, the two of them hold his nose together and he dives in.
Right. This is where we get a lot of really good makeup, I think, in terms of, I think it's an eye or...
Yeah, the eye. So that somehow triggers evil Ash coming section into the world, I guess. And
I think this is doing what Ant-Man would have done to Thanos if we go by the Ant-Man can go it. This is how Infinity War would have turned out.
So yeah, but I don't know what goes on inside Ash, but with the little Ash then kind of grows up inside him.
It's coming out, yeah, whether he likes it or not.
Splits apart into two, the good Ash and the bad Ash.
I do really like the fake Ash head that's on him while he's just crawling around.
But again, you've got like that fake eye. The fake eye is the first thing we see, and it's blinking away on his shoulder.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. It's so creepy. It's like it makes my shoulder itch a little bit thinking about having an eyeball like looking at me from there.
I think that's just Sam Raimi's thing for eyes. Like,
He loves eyeballs, doesn't he?
it's a common feature in most of his films, and because of it, it's a common feature on this podcast now.
Yeah.
You've got to look for that eye stuff.
Sam Raimi's eyeball appreciation podcast.
Yeah. So Ash sort of separates. There are two now. There's one good, there's one bad.
Good, bad,
I'm the
guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Which is again another iconic line of this. Like it's such.
But
this film is full of quotable lines.
Does that line imply that even good Ash is still not all that good?
It just implies he doesn't give a shit. Ultimately, he doesn't care about this timeline and what's going on. He just wants to get home. And it's a badass line.
Yeah, it really is.
It's such a badass line.
We do get a lot of teasing from the bad Ash, little goody two shoes.
Little goody two shoes.
And they have a little fight. But he's the one with the gun, so he takes the shotgun, shoves it in his face
off.
Blasts his face
but
off.
Then again, it ruins his face. So from there on in, you can tell which one's good and which one's bad, because the bad one now for the rest of the movie has his disfigured, shotgunned face.
Yeah. And he buries him in the forest, and again we get another shot where it's from the Graves' perspective of Ash just driving a.
Yeah,
we love to...
I think he says something along the lines, "You've got something on your face," and he goes, "What?" And it just throws dirt on him, like shovels dirt onto him. But everything he's gone through, Ash seems to be having the best time in this movie out of all of them.
Even Bruce Campbell. These films can't be easy to make; they must take a toll.
Sam Raimi just bullies Bruce Campbell the entire way through him.
He's being beaten up.
Yeah, he's been beaten up, covered in blood.
Off he goes to find a Necronomicon. He's got to utter a spell that will send him home or rid the world of
magic words that he has to say before he can pick the book up, or else it all goes to hell.
Clatter Baratu Niktu.
Clatu Baratu Nikto.
Yeah, along those lines. But if we can't get it right, what chance does?
Well, it's famous little words from Davio Sustil is where those words come from.
Oh, very good.
I can't remember the context from that movie. I think it's just some words he says when he steps down. But Sam Raimi's just obviously got I like the way that sounds.
That's really cool.
So we'll use those.
Maybe he's a fan. Yeah. So we have Ash arrives at the shrine of multiple books. This is probably my favorite scene.
And again, it's a cartoon.
Yeah,
because he goes for one.
Well, one of them
he opens it up.
Okay, I'll always like this design of books where it's sort of toothy, otherworldly. It's not quite
bound in human flesh.
It's supposed to be grotesque.
The books here look a lot neater than the previous two films. I always think
Oh yeah, but that's because the budget allows it to be. But then is it not doing a thing on purpose where it goes, like the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? If he picks the one that looks the most grotesque, is he picked incorrectly? I don't know. Maybe these are all questions they had in production. But one of them, he gets sucked into.
He opens it up, and it's a big vortex that it sucks him into. But again, because it takes his hands first, and it elongates his hands, and he's got prosthetics on, and then his face goes in, and his face is all, and it's all like rubber masks, but it looks great. It looks really good. I still think all that holds up today.
Have you seen the behind the scenes photos of just Ash, Bruce Campbell
walking around like with those on his face?
It's great.
I've seen it.
I like how that can be just solved by just shaking your head really fast.
Again, it's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon.
It's exactly how
it's Looney Tunes.
It's Looney Tunes,
right?
Which is interesting.
Absolutely.
As we head towards a very important question,
yeah,
but it is Looney Tunes. It's exactly how Bugs Bunny would. So Donald Duck with his beak on the back of his head.
That's a crossover I need in my life. Another book. It bites him. Does it bite him on the hand?
It bites him, and then it flies around.
It flies around. Yeah.
I think he boomsticks it.
But then we get to the book that he needs.
So process by elimination. The other two were not all that great. So we'll go for the third one.
Only Ash could get it wrong both times, and he has to utter the lines, and he gets it wrong. Well, it's not that he gets it wrong.
He just forgets the last word. He goes Klaatu, Barato, necktie, Neptune. Nickel is like, it's an N word. It's definitely an N word. So he's like halfway there. He's so close to it. And he does a great little like look over both shoulders before doing it as well. So he's like making sure no one's watching him before going Klaatu, Baratu.
No, I don't think so. If I do that, no one will know. Yeah.
We've done it. No one will know.
Obviously, it doesn't work, and all hell breaks loose.
The ground starts to shake, and the earth opens up.
It's
going skeleton hands start coming out of the ground.
I do like the he's trying to run away, and the skeleton hands are trying to grab him, and he falls over. And then there's a good Three Stooges section here.
It goes on. I feel like in any other movie, it would feel like it goes on for far too long, but it just makes sense here, where it's just playground skeleton hands slapping him in the face and poking him in the eyes, and he's tried to fight back. Where he puts his hand up over his nose so that the hand can't reach his eyeballs. He's like, and he's pulling.
The runtime of this differs depending on which ending you get. We're looking around an hour and 25 minutes if you average it out.
Yeah.
Most of that runtime is pure slapstick gold, right?
Oh yeah.
But I do think this one moves quite quickly. Like
so the version I watch more often than not is the theatrical cut,
which is
the S-Mart ending.
S-Mart ending, right? Yeah.
Which is the best ending. We'll get to
we'll get to it, because I do want to have an argument, because I don't agree.
Right. Okay. We'll get to this.
We'll get there.
But the version I watch runs in at I think it's 81.
Close to an hour and a half. Yeah.
Which is 80 minutes. It just flies by, and there's just no fat on this thing. It just moves, and it doesn't stop for anything.
Yeah.
As soon as one set piece is done, it's straight on to the next one. There's no big long exposition about more. It's so tight as a movie. This one, I think. I
do think that's a credit to Raimi and the Raimis. Ivan Raimi wrote it with him.
Yeah.
I'm sure the screenplay would have been a little bit longer, but again, like you said, like the fat has been trimmed. Sam Raimi knows how to tell a story in an hour and a half. You've had a good time at the cinema.
Exactly. No one's leaving this thing disappointed.
He really manages his time well. Hell's broken loose, and it's the skeleton army on the rise, which this should have been called Evil Dead Rise. Right?
Yeah.
If we're being
Evil Dead definitely rises in this.
So he goes back to the kingdom, and he's like, "Oh, I uttered the words. Yeah, it's fine."
Maybe I didn't say every little syllable, but basically, yeah, I got it. I said it.
Yeah. So he has to basically now, to finally get back, he has to forge an army.
Well, he says, he gets back, he's like, well, I got the book, you can send me home. And they're all like, well, we could do, but you're kind of leaving us hanging a little bit now that you've opened up the gates to hell. And he's like, well, it was the deal. And then everyone calls him a coward, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone calls him out, and
he is a selfish character, but I feel like if he knows he's done wrong, he'll be like, okay, fine.
But is he only helping them because he doesn't want people to hate him?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But ultimately, he does help out. So
he teaches them how to fight. He constructs weapons and stuff like that. There's the car, which is Sam Raimi's car we've had.
Yeah.
From the first one and obviously the second one. That is one thing that was dragged into this time with him, and they've made that into some sort of catapult, or like a
blade on it. It's got a blade on it. It's got, I don't know. It's got a big blade on it. It's got like a cow catcher at the front.
You describe it as the ultimate weapon, right? Yeah.
The ultimate, he goes, welcome to the 21st century, and then just starts mowing down skeletons with it.
We go into quite a lot of battle scenes here. First of all, the puppetry with the skeletons. It can't possibly be easy to do. But the fact that it is so good is a credit to everyone involved.
It's so many different uses of techniques. There's a big reveal shot where it shows the whole army.
Mm-hmm.
In the very background, you've got people in suits, like dressed up like rotting skeletons.
Uh-huh.
And then close to the camera, you've got essentially just puppets on sticks. but it works because that's where those need to be, and the further ones away where you can't really see what's going, like you can't see the detail as much works. And then like when the fight actually starts, you've got stop motion skeletons attacking the castle, and so you've got all these different techniques being used where they need to be used,
Mhm.
so that you're not thinking, oh, well, they're all just puppets. Because if they were all just puppets, it'd look rubbish in the places where you needed
Like
more
yeah,
movement.
there are people forming on both sides of this war. Sheila has done a bit of a Yui, and and she's gone with Badash.
She's gone with Badash. Badash basically takes her away and then kisses her, and then she's now evil. I think that's how they sum this up.
From here, it sort of blurs for me because I always enjoy the first half much more than I enjoy the second half.
Okay.
Please take it away. This is on you.
This is where it just goes full medieval sword play. Bruce Campbell looks, they've definitely done some choreography with some swords.
I think he's doing most of his own stunts here as well.
Yeah, there's so many stunts, and everyone just looks like having a great time with it. The car we were talking about earlier, where he drives it out and goes, "Welcome to the 21st century," it just starts mowing down skeletons. But again, even if this half isn't your favorite, because I kind of prefer the first half of this movie as well. But I still love this. I love it in its entirety. It's only 20 minutes. It's literally a 20-minute battle. The whole movie runs in at 80 minutes. The Evil Ash gets, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but Evil Ash gets some great one-liners. It's like, I'm going to take you down, and then Ash runs up some stairs and goes, I'm going up. Like, it's such a throwaway comic.
Even Sheila gets ones that where Ash like finds out that she's been possessed and stuff like that. And she goes, "Oh, you're hideous," or something, and then she says, "You found me beautiful once."
Beautiful. Yeah.
Honey, you got real ugly. It's, of all the films, I think most of his one-liners do come from this one.
This is the most quotable installment of a, like, groovy will always be the top.
Quotable line.
The best line.
I do like Mia Come Get Some,
Come get some. Oh, I mean, we're gonna go if it is the second movie. I know we're here to talk about Harry Douglas, but the second movie where it goes, "I'll swallow your soul." Swallow this.
Ash obviously beats Ash. I use that. Good Ash uses beats Bad Ash. Bad Ash does get it quite good though.
Yeah.
Because isn't he like set on fire? So it's just his skeleton again.
There's a catapult set up with some explosives on it.
Yeah, that's it.
And Good Ash falls next to it, and Bad Ash is on top of it with the Necronomicon going, "I have you now." And Ash cuts off his hand, gets the Necronomicon, and then fires the catapult, exploding him. And it's a complete, just like, that's all they needed to do to win.
That's all, folks.
As soon as that explosion happens, it's like the Death Star blows up and everyone just starts cheering and goes, "That's it, we've won. We don't need to worry about the rest of the army that are probably still attacking."
Yeah.
But again, like, it doesn't matter. It's just like, that's the big bad has been defeated, so we can move on now.
I do like that everywhere he goes, he causes chaos for everyone else.
Well, this is where it splits, because now
this is where it's gonna get interesting.
This is Necronomicon in hand, big bad defeated.
Yeah.
Ash is now free to get sent to his
back to his own time.
And if you describe the director's cut.
So the director's cut is Ash. We're going to go back to his own time. It sort of does like a pan fade, right? Where he's back in S-Mart.
No, this. Okay, this is the theatrical.
I'm going theatrical because this is the one I've seen the most.
Theatrical. Okay, so we agree. We agree. Okay.
This one is not my favorite. The other one is my favorite. Absolutely.
Right. This is my favorite.
Okay. So please, you take the reins.
So it kind of fades back into. So he's sent to his own time. There's a magic spell, and he's got to drink a potion, send him back to his own time.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of cuts to him telling the story to who's he telling it to? It's
just loads of people.
It's Sam Raimi's brother.
It's Ted Raimi.
It's Ted Raimi. Ted Raimi's there listening to his story, bored, just like, "Oh yeah, really?" Pull the other, like, "You've obviously just made this up." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Well, I could have been king." And then this girl comes up and goes, "Hey, that story about you being king, found it pretty cute." And then there's a gust of wind and the lights start to flicker.
Mm-hmm.
and there's a deadite in the store behind them.
It goes into another sort of action set piece now.
It's just another action set piece where she starts attacking this woman who Ash has been talking to, and Ash like shoots. She's using a cash register as a weapon, so Ash shoots it out of her hand, and she goes, "Who the hell are you?" And Ash replies, "Name's Ash. Housewares." It's the best line. So then before that he goes, "Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store."
Yeah.
He jumps on a trolley and he's got this new like rifle that he's like kind of locking and loading and like just attacking her with. And then it goes, and then he's defeated the deadite. He grabs this girl. He goes, "Hey, I could have been king, but in my own way, I am king." And then Ash says, probably my favorite line of the whole series, "Hail to the king, baby."
They made a video game called that.
Hail to the king.
Hail to the King, which honestly, a shit video game, but in terms of lines that have gone on to much better things, I think, yeah.
Well, if I'm doing it, I'm going to do it now. So I brought a beer pairing with me.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Does it make sense to do it now? So Brewdog, for reasons that might make sense to some people, have brewed a beer called Ale to the King.
Oh my God.
And I think I'd much rather drink it with The Evil Dead than I'd rather drink it for whatever reasons they brewed it.
That's a very good.
I'm going to crack it open. I'm going to crack it open if that's all right.
No, go for it. Yeah. That was the quietest can in all of
Maybe
that.
I'm not even but I drank it. I got 2 cans, so I drank it earlier. It's really good. It's a really like malty and quite interestingly quite like malty and biscuity.
Oh, which is interesting.
So there you go. So it's got like those biscuit like oaty flavors, like bit of caramel, but still really easy drinking. And I think that's what this movie needs. It needs something a little bit dark and a little bit, but also dark, like fun, easy drinking, and it's like dark and yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. That's a good pairing, man. Is it?
Thank you.
Is it in any way tied to the Evil Dead movies at all? That one, or the beer itself, or is it literally to the King? And you've gone, yep, that'll do.
Well, there was we had a bank holiday recently, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
and I think they brewed it for that. But I'm saying I'd rather drink it with the Evil Dead.
Yeah, man. But not my king. Not my king, George.
Ash is my king.
We've got another ending to talk about.
Right, go on.
This is honestly
talk about your ending.
This is the one I feel I don't understand why there was 2 endings anyway. I don't know if there was something.
It was down to test audiences.
Test.
It was all it was. So. The ending you're about to discuss was how Sam Raimi originally wanted to end the trilogy, but test audiences went, "Oh, I don't like it because it's too downbeat." And like I'm usually the one to go, "Well, that's bullshit. Like you should let the artists have their downbeat horrible ending." I just love the S-Mart ending so much.
I think maybe because we've seen Ash have his like. I mean, the ending of the second one was very. I won't say downbeat, but it's very ambiguous as to what could happen. If this film didn't exist, that would be, oh, what a horrific ending for this character. He doesn't deserve this. It's good to see him get, to be happy in S-Mart, but I like Ash in pain. I love to see it.
Just like Sam Raimi, you want to bully Ash.
I completely see where Sam Raimi is coming from now, just seeing Bruce Campbell just... have a terrible time.
I get that.
So Ash goes, okay, I've got to get back. So they've done some sort of elixir or there's some sort of spell, and they've turned his car basically into a time machine, which is very, very.
So it's there's a potion, and if you drink it, then you'll just sleep. You'll sleep. So maybe they lock him in a cave with his car. Yeah.
But I think it's you have to drink so much to then wake up at the right time.
They say 1 drop is a century. So if
Right.
you drink one drop, you'll sleep for 100 years.
I think he drinks most of it, right?
So he drinks far too much of it.
Yeah. And then we get a like time lapse thing. I think it's been a long time since I've watched it. And Ash wakes up finally after all this time, and he's gone way too far, and he's in the future. I would like to see Ash fight Deadites in the future.
I do agree with you. I would love to see Ash fight Deadites in the future. And I do like it as an ending. I just think if I've got to choose, I have to choose the S-Mart ending.
Which is
but
fair.
Also,
that's fair.
But also, the S-Mart ending sets up the entirety of
Ash versus the Evil Dead.
And Ash versus the Evil Dead season 3 ends with pretty much the same ending, where he's accidentally slept too long and he wakes up in the future. So they almost could have done it. They could have, we were so close to Deadites in the future. Or
there is a theory going around that I'm not going to spoil here because I'm going to talk about it when I talk about Evil Dead Rise. But there is something that hints that Ash is skipping through time, and that's all I'll say. But I await your response when you listen to that podcast.
I'll will be listening to it. So
that's the Army of Darkness. Evil Dead 3, The Army of Darkness.
Evil Dead 3, Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness.
Yeah. It's not even Ash versus the Army of Darkness. It's Bruce Campbell.
I think it's just because he gets top billing. So in the credits, it's just Bruce Campbell. And sometimes you get like Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man. This is Bruce Campbell versus... I think is what they were kind of going for.
In a role so iconic that no one else could do it, I feel like.
No one else could do it.
Absolutely, yeah. But we've come to a very important question here now.
The big question.
It's a biggie, and I think I know your response. Is the Army of Darkness better than Space Jam?
I've always been interested in your reasoning for this question because I think me and you both started our Instagrams about the same
around the same time, yeah.
And so I kind of saw your first post, which was, why is Space Jam
why is it
the yardstick?
Yeah.
And your reasoning being that it's just a movie that you can watch anytime and any place and enjoy it. You can watch it full on engaged with it. You can put it on in the background. And each time you're kind of going to enjoy it at the same level, whether you're watching it fully or watching it in the background, or whether you've watched it last week or last year or 10 years ago. And on that level, Army of Darkness is better than Space Jam. It
absolutely is, isn't it?
The last time I watched this was back end of April. I went to, it was when the weekend Evil Dead Rise was released.
Yeah.
I went to an all-day marathon of all 5 movies.
Where did you see an all-day marathon? I couldn't find any of them.
It was a little cinema in Manchester called Cultplex, and they did the first 4,
right,
which ended at 11 p.m. and then we went to a midnight screening of Evil Dead
Rise. Yeah.
And it might have been the best day of my life.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It turns out 5 Evil Dead movies in a row is not too many Evil Dead movies. We went. My brother was staying over. We went home and we watched the first episode of Ash
versus the Evil Dead.
We just need more of this. But then the time before that was probably November. So I've watched this movie now 3 times in 6 months.
Wow, a true fan. This is why,
and I'm not tired of it. I'm I genuinely love it.
When we spoke first about you coming onto the podcast and talking about Evil Dead, I think you were excited to talk about any of them, but mostly you said Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and I was just so like, okay, great. Okay, I want to get you on to talk about Army of Darkness because I knew how much you liked it, and your enthusiasm is infectious, mate. Because honestly, I think you're making me like it more. I don't think it's perfect. Of course, it's not perfect.
Yeah,
but it's a good time, right?
It's such a good time, and I think we were saying at the beginning of this, we were saying about how people's rankings and how they are also tight at the top, but I do sometimes feel like Army of Darkness just gets put at the bottom by default. And I think everyone looks at like 1 and 2 are amazing. Like
always
two
top.
Is top. 2 is top. I mean, I think a lot of people go 1 and then the 2 new sequels, and then Army of Darkness because it is just so totally different. But it's 80 minutes, and it just doesn't stop, and it's such a time. When it's fun, it's fun. Like, there's some really good horror moments in there, and I do love it so much.
Mm-hmm. I would like to hear your ranking of the Evil Dead franchise just before we go.
I would go Evil Dead 2 is top.
Yep.
There's just absolutely no way around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say Army of Darkness.
Okay.
And then I would say The Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say Evil Dead 2013.
Okay.
And then Evil Dead Rise.
And then Rise.
And Evil Dead Rise is only at the bottom because I've only seen it once.
Right, yeah.
Whereas all the others I've seen multiple times and I've got this other appreciation. Evil Dead Rise is kind of just bottom by default at the moment because I've only seen it about 1 time.
It's interesting that you say it's the one you've watched the least, because the one I've watched the least is this one. And therefore it sits firmly at the bottom. Maybe if there's a person out there, and there isn't, but maybe if there is a person out there who's watched all of these films once, can go, oh, I would like to know their ranking. It must be completely different to both.
If you're out there listening, is there anyone out there who's not seen any of them yet and they can get their fresh perspective on it?
Absolutely. George, it's been a pleasure having you on this podcast.
It's been amazing to come on. Thank you so much for having us.
I hopefully, and I'm going to assume here, this won't be your last time on the podcast.
I would love to come back on. It's been a great time.
Wonderful. George at TipsyFlix, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. Army of Darkness, it's Evil Dead remake with Sarah Popcorn Chat next episode. See you then.